Review number 2 tonight. It is me, again, back with y'all. Thank you again for joining me for this evening's review. How have I not reviewed the staple of bourbon, one of the staples of the bourbon world, that being Blanton's, the original single barrel whiskey. I mean, it's amazing. I started to look back, and I've done such a wide variety of spirit reviews. I hadn't really kind of covered one. I've done here and rum and Irish and cognac and scotch, and it's amazing that I haven't kind of gotten deep into one particular spirit. And the fact that I haven't done Blanton's, frankly, is an oversight on me. Let's get right into this again. I'm going to try to keep this nice and concise this evening and tight with the time schedule. Blanton's. Let's think about bourbon and bourbon history and kind of how we got to where we are today. So, in the 50s and 60s, bourbon was flowing like the salmon of Capistrano, so to speak. If you're a Dumb and Dumber fan, you'll get that reference. I mean, it was everywhere. Drank by everyone, socially, and it was huge. It was the spirit of choice. 70s come down. 80s come down, and it really takes a hit. You know, clear spirits start to kind of boom. In the 90s, it started to come back a bit, and in the 2000s and 2010s, obviously, it's resurged and it's boomed quite tremendously. But so right there in the middle of that down period, one Elmer T. Lee, who you probably know the name of, who at the time was the master distiller at Buffalo Trace. Today, Buffalo Trace, at the time was the George T. Stagg Distillery, decided to create what Buffalo Trace claims is the world's first single barrel bourbon, meaning the bourbon was sourced from one barrel, not a blended product. So pretty risky move in 1984 to make that decision. Named it Blanton's after Colonel Blanton's, who was the kind of his protege, who spent, I think, 55 years in, again, the George T. Stagg, and had previous names before that in multiple capacities, excuse me. So he named it after Mr. Blanton. So, yeah, I mean, a pretty bold move, and like I said, an epic bottle. Let's talk about it. We're going to cover this a little deeper than we typically do. So we'll start with the cork, the topper. I mean, it's legendary. We've all seen this, even if you don't have this bottle. It's got a horse. You collect all of the tops. It spells Blanton's, B-L-A-N-T-O-S. It's a different part of the horse's stride, each letter. So if you collect them all, you can see like a whole stride of this racehorse. So that's kind of cool. Also, the shape of the bottle is very, very unique. You don't see this shape anywhere else, at least that I'm aware of. I have a couple rum bottles that are sort of similar, but nothing quite like this. And then again, the transparency is tremendous. It gives you a dump date. This particular bottle was dumped 4/27/15, so it's a few years old. All Blanton's is stored in warehouse H, which is the only metal-cladded warehouse in the Buffalo Trace grounds. Tells you what rick it was on. This was on 5, barrel number 485, and they are all hand bottled at 93 proof. So again, great transparency. I love that about them. Nice little neck tag that tells you a little story. So that's the high level overview about the product, the package. Let's talk about the juice itself. It is made up of the kind of a famous, what they call mash bill 2 at Buffalo Trace. Several bottles that you're aware of are made up of mash bill 2. It's a little higher in rye. They estimate between 12 and 15%. Buffalo Trace is a little bit closed when it comes to giving away the exact mash bills of all their products, but it's a higher rye product than some of their other bourbons. Elmer T. Lee is another mash bill 2 product. Again, we're talking 12 to 15% rye. Again, this is a non-age stated product, but they estimate it's probably a 6 to 8 year-old bourbon. They typically will take them from the middle sections of that warehouse H to kind of they feel like that's the sweet spot to source this bourbon from. price point standpoint, it is in the $55 range typically now at retail. It is to the point now where it's becoming allocated, which still blows my mind. Bottles like Blanton's, as much as I like Blanton's, the fact that it's allocated is it's interesting. But there's a secondary market on this now. I mean, you're looking at $100 to buy a bottle of this now. It's incredible where we're at in this industry, in this hobby. But let's get into the fluid itself. Love the nose on this. Love it. Oh, it's just bourbony. It's just bourbony in every way a bourbon could be. It's got everything you want. It's got buttered popcorn. It's got caramel. It's got tons of vanilla. It's got tons of oak. It's got a little bit of the char on it. Beautiful, delicious nose. I mean, it's just if there was an alien that decided to walk down my basement stairs right now and said, "Hey, I've heard a lot about this bourbon you Earthlings are drinking. I'd like to try some." Blanton's may be what I would say may epitomize the entire category in terms of the flavor profile. It's just rock solid bourbon. It's nothing offensive. Is it my absolute favorite bottle? No. But I could see how it could be. I could see how it's yours. I could see how if it's my next door neighbors. I mean, there's nothing offensive. There's nothing wrong with it. Personally, whereas there's nothing offensive and whereas a very good pour, it's also not mind-blowing. And I'm being very particular, very snooty, I guess, but there's not one thing that kind of completely punches me in the face like, wow, that's incredible. Very, very good. There's cinnamon, clove, almost like a cilantro-ish flavor, which is weird. Citrus fruit. I'm getting a little toffee, probably. It's just a very, very well-balanced, well-crafted bourbon. Highly recommended. I'd give Blanton's a 7.7. Yeah, really nice pour. So that's all I got, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. More to come. Like I said, boy, do I have my homework cut out for me if I want to continue to kind of even scratch into my collection and what I have to bring to light to you guys. So thanks again for joining me. I went over my time limit, but I figured Blanton, if anybody's deserved it, they certainly did. So until next time, and as always, glasses up.